Are you an investor who's looking to purchase industrial properties, but maybe aren't so familiar with the requirements needed for these types of investments? Well, we've had many clients who purchased industrial and maybe didn't quite understand the power requirements that they should have in industrial properties in order to make sure they can secure great tenants for their spaces. So in this video, we're going to talk about power to industrial properties and what investors need to know. And anytime that you're an investor that is looking to secure a great tenant, you need to keep in mind the power needs that your tenant is going to have for that space. And with industrial properties, it's generally going to be a lot of power. So first, let's visit the basic components of electrical power that you would be looking at. So your voltage is basically what you'd consider the pressure within the electrical line. And voltage will come in numbers that you'll hear around 208, 480, 600 plus, and those numbers are basically the pressure in the line. The amperage is the volume of flow. So amperage can start at 200, but that's usually more so for residential properties. A really good amperage is going to be 400 plus, with some properties having 4,000 or more if they're really heavy users of power. And then the wattage is the work being done, so to speak. So that's how much and the components of the electrical that the machinery within the facility is using. So oftentimes you're going to hear the words single phase or three phase. So almost across the board, you want to have three phase power. And that is basically what it sounds like: three electrical lines coming into the property, providing a alternating electrical service that provides a more consistent and uniform power source to the equipment that's running in that property. So almost across the board, you need three-phase power within an industrial property. So if it doesn't have three-phase, that could be a great opportunity to add value if the opportunity, if the power is there to bring it in. But that's a great question, because not all electrical providers can necessarily just flip a switch and be able to bring a three-phase service into your property. Oftentimes there's intense demand for electrical service, and utility providers have to plan years in advance and upgrading of utility lines to be able to service upgrades to existing facilities, or especially newer developments, to make sure they're providing enough power to those developments. So, how much power do you need? Well, your first consideration should be to think about your tenants and what type of power they need. So not all tenants' uses are going to be equal. If you have warehousing or light assembly uses where they're more so storing and shipping goods, then that's not going to require as much power, unless it's climate controlled, where you actually have AC and electrical components of heat, because those HVAC equipments do draw a lot of power. Now, if you have maybe a mid-range user where they're running light work machinery and are consistently drawing down power to produce within that space, then that's going to need a heavier power use. And then you get into the really heavy industrial or refrigerated spaces. Those are going to bring in the highest power needs specifically for that space. So the numbers that you're generally going to be looking for is at least a amperage of 400 plus and volt flow of 480 ideally, to be able to service your basic users. And then the more so you have, the better. But keep in mind, if you hear, oh, this building has 1200 amps, does that mean the whole building does? And maybe there's 3 suites within that building? That doesn't necessarily mean each suite has 1200. It means that that building does, and then that's divided in between the suites. So that's a common confusion item for both tenants and owners, where they might say, hey, I have 1200, but this space, has half, and that space has half. So it's really important to understand where that's going within the building as well. So make sure that you're keeping those numbers and the criteria for your prospective tenant in mind as you're purchasing investment properties. And that way you'll be able to place tenants successfully and keep them long-term, knowing that you'll be able to service their power requirements for a long time to come. I hope this video brought you some value. If so, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for investment properties within Pennsylvania or Maryland, please reach out to us. We're happy to help.